Welcome back to the Real Estate Excellence Podcast. It's your host, Tracy Hayes, another best of the best on the show today. This team is a dynamic duo of two successful agents. One says her favorite sports team is the Dallas Cowboys, and the other says the Miami Dolphins. I actually gave it away because I said her. I tried to left that out. So my little joke there just blew up on me. One is a Navy veteran. The other went to Georgia Southern. Today, they both work for one of the most successful unique brokerages in Northeast Florida, Slate Real Estate. Let's welcome Erika Pledger and Yordan Polanco, the Pledger and Polanco team, to the show.
Awesome.
Thank
Thanks
you.
for having us.
I'm glad you guys come on, and obviously, I've seen both of you guys, and Yordan, we've done deals together already with the builder I was associated with, and I'm really interested in getting you guys, because obviously, I think, I don't know, maybe you can correct me, but I think you guys are fairly successful as individuals. But I'm really curious as we talk what the power is of getting together with another agent. The one thing on the show we get a lot of, everyone has a different way of how they structure, their team, or in this, your unity as the two of you, where you guys plan to go with it, etc. So, but I'm going to kick off the show. We'll go to Yordan first. Yep. Navy veteran.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Where'd you grow up, and what led you into the Navy?
So I grew up in the Florida Keys, small island in Key Largo. Went to a small school. Everybody kind of grew up together. Unless you're going into, the restaurant business or fishing or anything like that.
Right.
There's not really a whole lot to do there after you graduate. I saw an opportunity to go into the Navy, so I kind of took that. I joined right after high school, 2010. And did almost 10 years while.
Excellent. And you're, just dig a little bit for our veterans that may be on there. I mean, I think I had, you were a chief engineer, but actually I didn't write down in my notes, because you do have on your bio, basically, what was kind of, what level, your biggest assignment that you had in the Navy?
So I was in Little Creek, Virginia. For about 6 years. Mm-hmm. My biggest position there was chief engineer, which pretty much oversaw LCUs, landing craft utilities. And I kind of ran a crew there on deployments and things like that.
That must have been nice to have at least 6 years of basically being stationary. I assume you shipped out occasionally? Or?
Yeah, I deployed a few times. Virginia was nice, going from the Florida Keys to Virginia, where there's actual seasons and snow. Yeah. Probably wasn't the most fun, but it was a good experience there.
Yeah. And Erika, you grew up you were born in North Carolina, if I saw correctly.
Yes.
And then went on to Georgia Southern. Tell us about growing up in North Carolina, and then what led you to Georgia Southern?
So I actually didn't grow up in North Carolina. Born there. Both my parents were born and raised there. My dad was actually in the military too. He retired as a lieutenant colonel in the Air Force. So growing up, I was an Air Force brat. Moved every 3, maybe 4 years if we were lucky. And then his last station when I was in high school was in Georgia, in Valdosta, Georgia. And so I ended up going to Georgia Southern, graduating there. And my husband and I moved here after we both graduated.
So Georgia Southern was just by
I wanted to get away, but it wasn't. Yeah,
not too far away.
Not too far. It was 3.5 hours.
3.5 hours. Yeah. We were just through Valdosta the other day. We went to Wild Adventures because we were up in Georgia for the 4th of July visiting family. We did our little stop. I didn't realize Wild Adventures is kind of like off the beaten path.
It is.
You don't realize, like, are we going to an amusement park?
Yeah.
Especially if you go to Disney World all the time, right? You're like, is there a sign?
It's hidden for sure.
Yeah, the GPS says keep going this way. So you went to Georgia Southern. What did you study? And what was your initial vision of what you wanted to do for a career?
So it's actually really funny. I graduated with a degree in broadcasting and went back home. By that time, my parents were in Pensacola. Went back home to do my internship, and it was right when the oil spill in the Gulf happened. Uh-huh. And my first experience in the real world, seeing all of that, it was just I found it so depressing. It was just really hard. Personally. So I knew that was, kind of, even though I had just graduated, it just wasn't for me. Mm-hmm. So kind of focused on PR for a little while. We moved, my husband and I, he was my fiance at the time, we moved to Jacksonville, and I got got my first job in nonprofit working at Best Buddies, which is how I met Cole.
Oh, okay. Oh, yeah. All right. So you're doing public relations for Best Buddies? Is
So
that
I was
kinda-
actually a program manager. I was in approximately 20 schools here in Northeast Florida, just creating those programs for friendships within the schools, disability and the general population.
Okay. You decide you're going to not re-enlist in the Navy. What did you visualize yourself doing? What was your
Honestly,
initial-
I had no idea at the time. I knew that, me and my wife were away from each other for so long on deployments. When I was on my last deployment, I knew I wanted to come to Florida. So I
come back
took
closer to home. I guess.
closer to home.
Is mom and dad still in Key Largo?
They are, yes.
Okay, cool.
My wife's family as well. So, when I was on my last deployment, I took the first billet was available for Florida. Not really knowing what I was going to do.
Right.
Came here.
So that brought you to Jacksonville.
That brought me to Jacksonville for my last tour. I was here. I was in the Navy here for about 3 years at
Okay.
NAS Jax. And then during that time, I was getting closer to my 10-year mark. Halfway through my career, me and my wife started talking and saying, hey, are we gonna finish this out, or we wanted to start a family at the time, and I didn't really want to be away. My last 2 deployments prior were very long, 11 months and 9 months.
Ooh, yeah.
So I didn't really want to have, start a family and be gone.
Right.
So that's when I started kind of looking into other career paths.
So, through your marriage, how many of those, while you were still in the Navy, how many of those first years were you away?
So me and my wife have been together since freshman year of high school.
Okay. Oh, wow.
Married probably 3 years. Yeah, the 3 years. As soon as we got to Jackson, we pretty much got married.
Oh, okay. Okay.
But
so you're still
almost
dating
10
pretty much most of your Navy career. You were.
almost a full 10 years.
Oh, wow. Wow.
And she would come visit me every couple of months, and I would go back. We would go back and forth. But we knew we didn't want to have a family and continue that.
Right. Right. Interesting. You did the long distance relationship thing for a while.
For a very long time.
Wow. Very challenging. Yeah. So your wife and you are having a discussion. What's your initial? Obviously, you're in the Navy, taught you some skills. What are you thinking about doing when you discharge from the Navy?
When we first moved to Jacksonville, when my wife was house hunting, I was on deployment, and I was kind of doing my own research on real estate and things like that. And it was kind of something that was fresh in my mind that I enjoyed, and I liked the experience when we moved here. So I was like, well, let me reach out to my realtor, who was Cole Slate at the time, and see if he can kind of help me.
It often starts that way.
Yeah, see if he can help me, get my license and kind of guide me on what to do.
Right.
Not really expecting to do anything out of it or be on a team or actually end up working with him. But just kind of, getting my feet wet and seeing if there's a career that I liked. And then once I got, he helped me out, I got my license, and it kind of just went from
Okay.
there.
So we kind of know how he landed at Cole Slate. You started off at another brokerage, and then came to Cole. What was, and any new agent that might be looking on right now, I always put it out there, someone who might be looking into getting into real estate or might be in the real estate class right now, and obviously the brokers are all calling them, right? They're trying to recruit them. What led you to your first brokerage? And then obviously.
So I started with Cole as well. I wasn't at a brokerage before him. I met him through Best Buddies,
Okay.
who he's been a lifelong volunteer for. I was working with the organization, and very similar to Yordan, he helped my husband and I build our first home. And I fell in love with that new construction process, got really interested in real estate. And Cole at that point was just getting to the point where, he had a lot on his plate, more business than he could handle on his own. And so he actually brought me on to basically help transaction management at first. I was working on getting my license, and it kind of just evolved from there.
So you just started doing some, the transaction coordinator type work,
Exactly,
admin
yep.
work for him. It led you there. So I'll let you both comment. What obviously both of you interacted with Cole on a sales side as well. You were on the other side. And I imagine, I know him and I have talked a little bit about his brokerage and what makes it unique, and I complimented him on how his comp plan actually incentivized the agents to do a lot of the things that he did. And I think when you said he had a lot on his plate, yeah, because on Route 210 at this time is blowing up,
Yeah.
and he's right in the middle of it and grew up right there, right? So he in the right place at the right time for sure for there. But obviously he does. It's not just that with him. Both of you were impressed. So,
Yes.
Erika, tell me just a few things that just like, this is the kind of guy I want to work closely
Yeah.
with or follow. Yeah.
So if you've ever met him, he's a super dynamic person, very engaging. He just has a way of connecting with everyone in some way. He made our, new construction process just such a fun time for us. And, it was also that professional side of him as well. He, we were confident in what he advised us on, and, it was just an overall fantastic experience. So it really just opened my eyes. He looked like he was having so much fun doing what he was doing, and it really just opened my eyes, in that possibility of starting a new career.
Can you fine-tune for us one or two things that you remember he did with you that you implemented right away in your business and in that process?
Yeah, so one of the things that's always stuck with me, he started doing the welcome home signs in the front yard on closing day. And I believe my husband and I were his very first sign. And so, he was so excited to put that in our front yard right before we headed to closing.
Right.
And it was just that, personal touch. Just being truly a part of that entire process.
So you go to closing, you show up at your new house, there's this
Yeah.
welcome home sign, and obviously I imagine, from ear to ear you were smiling.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. Tell us a little about we'll go. You can lead into that question, but your interaction with Cole, what happened in your sales process that obviously wowed you and like, this may be someone I want to follow or get to know more from?
Honestly, it was, more the personality and kind of our priorities were similar.
Mm-hmm.
Family and, I'm not the most, you're super professional. It's more organic kind of relationships and personalities.
He's a laid-back dude.
Laid back, yeah, so am I.
He's like me. I take the Cole slant over. This is Cole Slaves, right?
Yeah.
Cole Slaves. But I don't wear flip-flops, but that's...
So before I met him, he has khakis and his
Yeah.
flip-flops. I always wear khakis and like Sperry's.
Yeah, right.
So I'm like, it's a cool dude.
Yeah.
But when I started, I was a single agent. I didn't go straight into the team.
Right.
But, not really knowing much, I would kind of go in the office and hang out and kind of listen in to the team at the time.
Mm-hmm.
And I enjoyed how they did things. It was really personable and kind of, friendly, kind of laid back.
So did you have the
environment.
welcome sign in your yard?
I did.
You did have the
I
welcome
did.
sign. Okay.
I think Erika was the first, though.
So, both of you kind of organically, it sounds like, and that's the way I think Cole runs his team. He's, I don't know the inner workings, but it's just, listening to you guys, he is a local guy, and obviously he probably drives around, he's got his big truck and everything. He creates his business organically. Obviously, how he's, the comp plan, driving you guys to be involved in the community, be involved in your local boards or real estate boards or whatever those things are, all the things that he did, and that's kind of like his ideology, his culture. That's, I guess, is the word.
Mm-hmm.
And you guys seem to it sounds like you kind of just blended right in with it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean,
absolutely.
is that kind of, you guys have the vision that he had? Did you guys see yourselves? Yordan, we'll start with you. I mean, your vision of, when you started, of course, you didn't know a lot, but you start to visualize, hey, where do I want to be? How do I want to do my business? I mean, did you see yourself aligning a lot with him?
Yeah, it was all very similar, our visions. So community involvement, giving back to the first responders, the military, me being military myself, teachers, are a big thing for us as well. My wife was a teacher. So kind of giving back to the community, was the most important thing, and that's kind of how we run our team now.
This is, the community part. I mean, I always be like, you sell homes, I do loans for homes. Everybody wants a home. Anyone's your client. You don't, whereas now, obviously, if you want to target a certain price range or something, maybe, you got to go hang out with those type of people. But I think Cole has had that attitude in growing up on 210, going to Bartram High and so forth. that everyone around him was a customer. So he didn't have to go very far. He just needed to get out there and let everybody knows what he's doing.
Yep, absolutely.
Same question I posed to him, whatever it was. Over to you, Erika.
Yeah, I mean, it's, you know, for us and something that we definitely align with the brokerage is it just all comes back to service, whether it's customer service, service to the community. You know, it's just really important to us. And, you know, it's something that we're allowed to focus on where we're at, you know, at this brokerage, which is super important to us.
Mm-hmm. So Cole is, I guess he had been, I can put in, I can't remember when he started with Exit. He's with Exit. When does the 210 office, when did that actually go in next to the Publix?
So that was in 2000, and I believe it was the summer of 2018.
Okay, all right. That's when I obviously started to notice him, because I was just getting it more sense in the retail being out in front of everybody versus the call center the previous 12 years, even though I've lived down the street for many years.
Yeah.
But that's when obviously I started, because every time I went to Publix, the truck was in the parking lot, and you know he's there. So he recruited there, and then obviously, you know, rightly so, as I think, you know, at least in his vision, went to open his own Slate Real Estate. Okay, and you guys, was there a debate whether or not you were rolling with him, or I mean, did you guys go through any?
No, I mean, it was pretty much, you know, 100%.
Right.
You know, we had been talking about it for a little while, and obviously it was, you know, the three of us at the time. So we were kind of game planning and talking about all the ideas for what Slate Real Estate would be, and we were on board 100%. I
Yeah.
mean,
In that location he's got. That's
we love it.
That's the greatest building
We
in
love it.
town. So double whammy. So it was just the three of you. Was there anyone else that went
Yeah,
up?
so
Wasn't there a few others
after
that,
Cole and I worked together for, I think, almost 2 years, at that point, again, we got to a point where we needed, you know, additional support. So we hired on our first full-time transaction coordinator. Since then, it kind of evolved into me being the, and this was on the Cole Slate team, me being the designated listing specialist, and then Yordan as the buyer specialist. And then, you know, again, we needed help with marketing and everything. So since then, we've brought on a full-time marketing coordinator as well. So he's always made sure that, you know, the dynamic of the team, we've had the support that we've needed in those positions. Absolutely.
all right, so you bring up support. I also tag that with value. Obviously, Cole gives, you know, every leader's got to give their people value. Otherwise, if the values weren't, they're going to go somewhere else,
Right.
So, you know, again, speaking out to those new agents, maybe agents who are at a brokerage feel like they've hit a lid or so forth. Talk a little bit of how important it is, and you guys kind of being on a little bit of an inner circle with Cole, because you came over initially and started Slate Real Estate. So there's a little bit of a loyalty, trust thing going on. I'm sure he talks to you guys. You know, you have those meetings and go through ideas of what we should do and so forth. How important was it? I mean, and you can, if you want to expand on, you know, some of the value that Cole gave you guys that have kept you guys intact in all this, well, several years now, where I see a lot of agents, you know, after a year or two, they're kind of like, okay, we burnt that out, we're ready to go to another pond, right? So they think. So what sort of values, you know, you being a new agent, was it 2000, I had 8, is it 18?
18.
Yeah. As a new agent coming on, that you felt you needed, or maybe even didn't even know you needed, but that he was giving it to you?
You know, the first thing is obviously, you know, he was there to help through everything. You know, every step of the way, you know, he was helping us. Every question we had, you know, he was there to help. But I think the biggest thing for me is being a new agent. So the first 2 years I was actually in the military as well, so I was kind of doing both. But transitioning out, you know, being in the military, you have a structure and, you know, you have a routine that you follow.
Yes.
And then once you're a new agent, unless you have a mentor or you have somebody to, you know, an accountability partner.
Right. Or join one of those teams where they do very much structure. You come in at 9 o'clock, you're dialing or whatever.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So, you know, being a new agent, not really knowing what to do, you know, being able to join that team and having a structure, having a plan for literally everything we did, there was a template or a plan or something, already built in.
Right.
So that was kind of an easier transition.
That's a great, coming from the military setting, everything's structured, what you're doing, what time you're doing it, that's sort of the extremely structured environment. To just, hey, I'm a real estate agent. Okay, what do I do next, right?
Yeah, I mean, when I was a single agent the first 3-4 months, I would go into the office and, like I said, I would just kind of listen in. I didn't know what I was doing,
Right. Why do I keep doing that? I asked the question. I'm listening so closely to what he said. The value. So you met him on a personal basis, but just express. If you're talking to a new agent, if they're out there interviewing other, which they everyone recommends, they go and talk to other brokers. They need to be interviewing the broker, not
Absolutely.
the broker. The broker's interviewing to make sure they're a fit for their team. They don't want to bring in poison, but you need to be, as an agent, going to a brokerage, you need to interview them.
Absolutely.
And, Erika, what are some of those things that are so important, especially, like someone Yordan was just mentioning, coming in new, that you're going to need, you don't even know you need?
Yeah, I mean, definitely, Yordan kind of touched on it. Those systems that are in place that a brokerage is able to provide is really vital to the success of an agent. And something that we're fortunate enough to have is really systems for everything, templates for everything. It streamlines a lot of the busy work so that we can really focus on relationship building and being in front of the customer.
Love that.
And definitely those support roles. Our transaction coordinator, he's incredible. He's in front of the computer 9 to 5, Monday through Friday, touching files, keeping everyone in the loop. And it's just, another set of eyes on everything that's going on. And then our marketing coordinator, same thing. She's in the office all week, just making sure that our listings are being presented everywhere that they need to be. Working with agents on personalizing their brands, everything like that. So it's really important to have those support roles, in being a successful agent.
You mentioned something there. It's so important, and in as much of the different podcasts that I listen to, or the books I read, the podcasts are more industry driven. Whether it's I listen to real estate agent podcasts and I listen to loan officer podcasts, same concept, but Cole set up more of a plug and play because all those, whether getting the like you said, getting the listings out, making sure they're getting out on the social media, or all those. The things that you have to fill out for the MLS, right? Those things, you don't pay someone $500 an hour to do that.
Right.
You as an agent or me as a loan officer, our job is to make that phone ring, get that next customer, and be working with that customer. And yeah, there you may think it's idle time, but you have to have a greater vision. There are people that like doing that administrative work, and you may like doing it, but the reality is it's not a good use of your time.
Right.
Yeah, that's 100% true.
How important are you coming in new? You had already been with Cole for a few years before Yordan came on. So the processes were probably even better when you came on than when she came on.
Yeah, they were a little bit more fine-tuned already. They had started probably 2 years prior to me joining. So it was an easier process to kind of get in there. And obviously we fine-tuned throughout the years.
Yeah, all of them are just constantly evolving, being updated. Right. It's something that we're consistently working on.
So a new agent out there, understand what you're getting. I think I tell everybody, don't tell me the brokerage has great education, because they all, what is great education?
Right.
Or great training, I guess is the term they use. I don't even know what that is. As a new agent, you're like, well, they said they had great training. I mean, you have to really, whether you're interviewing that brokerage or talking to a couple agents that actually are in that brokerage, what is great training? As a new agent, your demands in 2018 were different than your demands in 2018. Right. Having a few years already under your belt, so to speak. So, how important it is to understand what you're getting, and I think like any employer, you hope that you're aligning, go back to the vision.
Right.
You guys actually had a personal transaction. Both of you had done deals with Cole. You saw how he worked. Yeah. That's actually kind of amazing. It's kind of unique. I don't think you're going to have two of you sitting side by side.
He sold us in more ways than one.
Yeah. to stay on top of your game, because I did kind of led into education a little bit. How important, Yordan, I'll start with you. How important is, like you said, the first months you were in there and you were listening. You were showing up to the office and learning what everybody else, hearing the crosstalk, the cooler talk, whatever, the stories. Because both of you, I'm sure you agree, every transaction is different.
Right.
Ooh, absolutely.
Yeah, you may buy the same model home from the same builder, but trust me, you have two different buyers.
And-
Right?
absolutely.
Yeah. But how important was educating yourself? Not only, like you said, you were showing up, but to go above and beyond even what the brokerage did, whether it was at NEFAR or going to, obviously maybe a lender sponsoring a training or something. How important was that in ramping up your career to really get you going?
Oh, extremely. I mean, not just going and learning, but the relationships that you're building there, the people you're meeting, people you're aligning with, that's kind of the most important thing.
People who you surround yourself with.
Exactly.
So you started interacting and seeing other successful agents out there. You're with Cole, but now you're also pulling some other ideas from other people. Education, Erika, how important, does Cole press it? Was it something you had to go out above and beyond there? Obviously, Cole's just Tim. He's not Keller Williams, but you guys did come from Exit, so obviously Exit from a national basis.
Amazing, yeah.
I'm sure you guys stole some stuff over there, some ideas and how to. But when you merged from Exit to Slate Realty and your own boutique realty, what are some of the things that you guys have put in play to bring on? Well, I'm going to say, the new people in 2018. What are you doing to bring on new people today?
Yeah, we were super, we were very fortunate to have the training opportunities that we did at Exit, and it really just kind of influenced us moving forward in terms of making sure that, training and all of that is available for the agents that we have at Slate Real Estate. It's something we kind of have this unspoken rule that Cole always says: if you can't teach a class on the purchase and sale agreement, then you need to be attending the class on the purchase and sale agreement.
I've heard that, yes.
So, things like that are really important to us. Obviously, those forms are always being updated, staying on top of those red line versions and everything. Just so that you're, able to be a complete expert on the forms that you've got to present to customers.
Here's we're talking about education and get both of your opinions, and I know you can hear each other, but I'd like each of your individual opinions. As someone walking in the door, whether they were a stay-at-home mom or they were in corporate America or they were in the Navy, comes walking in the door, really doesn't even know that purchase and sale agreement. So obviously, it's one class they want to attend, maybe attended a couple of times with different instructors to get it from different angles, because we do have different, NEFAR's got their stuff, and, there's a couple different contracts in the area. How much time or percentage of their day should they be doing some sort of educational piece, whether it's online or at NEFAR or an internal training that maybe you guys have? How much of their day for someone, in those first 90, 120 days, should they be spending on getting to learn the business and actually physically sitting down, whether they're watching a video or sitting in a class?
I mean, honestly, you can't do too much, studying and learning. Doesn't matter if you do 100 transactions or you do 2 transactions. I mean, we go to every single purchase and sale agreement class there is, even till this day. Even if there's no red lines or changes, we're still there, because there's always a little bit you're going to learn.
You're going to learn, yeah.
Every time you go. So if you're a new agent, as much as possible.
Right. I had someone on months ago in early episodes said they should be able to take that contract and turn it the other way.
Yeah.
And read it from upside down if they were explaining it to someone across the table.
Yeah.
So, same question: how important, what percentage of that day, Erika, do you feel a new agent should be, really dedicate themselves to an educational piece, and especially in those first 90, 120
Yeah,
days?
especially as a new agent, if you don't have an appointment, absolutely take advantage of a training opportunity from, the local association, your broker, anywhere you can find it, really. it's so important to be comfortable with all of that, all of those forms that we have to work with every day.
And like you mentioned, I mean, take the same class from different people.
Yeah.
Because I might teach it differently than Erika
Or
teaches
highlight
it.
a certain section more
Exactly.
than others, yeah. Yeah, that they actually feel the instruction. We've all have experienced some agents that, I don't know if you want to just say they show up or they just feel like, oh, it's just, I mean, they actually promote for sale by owner the way some of these agents act. They, I had a recent situation. I think my wife was telling me if it was one of her stories, where literally the selling agent was upset because they got all these offers. Right? It wasn't just one or two offers; it was 20, which we've been experiencing.
Terrible situation.
And it's like, were they not prepared? I mean, where's their broker at? The broker sure already been preparing them for that, but. And it's because they're not spending the time. They're kind of that. They're literally part-time agent. Obviously, we know a lot of people, like you started part-time, but I imagine every moment that you were trying to get to that point to make that leap over and go full-time. You were educating yourself and trying to reach a certain level. But what do you guys do personally, though, from a personal development? I don't know if Cole preaches it. I know, like, obviously, the larger brokerages do. Are you guys podcast listeners? Do you like reading books, industry journals? What is it that you guys do to keep yourselves sharp?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of that is super, we stay on top of Inman. All of that is really important to, kind of looking at industry trends, what's happening hyper-local and, across the country. We are always looking at these studies that are coming out. We stay on top of our stats. We know a lot of them, we memorize them every month, every time something comes out, it's been updated. It's kind of ingrained in us to memorize.
Coming from an engineer to sales, there had to be a transition there.
Yep.
What are some of the things that you did to kind of change I don't know if it's change your mindset or, some of the things you did personally to make yourself better?
So it definitely was, a challenge, just because it's two completely different things, right? I'm going from, more hands-on to more, I guess you can say admin type job.
More, well, not that the engineer is cerebral, but yeah, you have a job, you go, this is what you got to do, maybe you got a manual, you're doing it, versus now you're actually interacting with people and learning how, I mean, all the walks of life we now have in Jacksonville from all over the world, really. People coming in and their different personalities, how they do business.
So I think that's probably what the easiest part was of the transition was, being in the military, we're just one big, melting pot
yeah.
of people. And then being a chief engineer and kind of having my own crew and being in charge, of all different types of people was kind of learning to work with different personalities and things like that.
Yeah.
And that's why, I kind of knew being a buyer's agent was the perfect role for me. So that was kind of the easiest transition because I can, kind of learn a buyer and learn a customer and kind of figure out what they need and what their priorities are and kind of how to treat them.
Well, from the actual sales process, and it may just come natural for you. I don't know. But I was just thinking, coming from the Navy, like you said, that structured environment, engineering. Okay, you're managing the people, you understood them, but now you actually have to take someone from here to where they want. You're showing them homes. Obviously, some homes sell themselves, but you actually. There is a process that, and I'm sure Cole goes as practice and talks, there is a process that you want to develop to take that person and make it a smooth, listening to them, what they want, and then how do you actually say, hey, you said you wanted this, this, and this, and and actually make the sale. You know what I mean? Because I think a lot of people think just real estate is showing a bunch of homes. I mean, I think both of you agree. That's probably 80% will drop out because they think it's just actually showing a bunch of homes. No, there's a lot more to it than that.
Yeah. So I mean, I think obviously studying the market and knowing what you're talking about is most important. But people when they go into a house, I mean, they know which one they want. Right, so I'm not trying to sell them on it. I'm gonna teach them, educate, on the differences of each one, and then they're gonna kind of make their decision there.
The value to them, and basically what they've told you. Okay, all right, we're gonna transition because this is the part I kind of let off as I'm really interested. obviously in the two of you, and why you guys have formed the Pledger Polanco team. I'm sure people listening out there, talk a little bit about your ideology. Both of you coming, you said November 2020 when you went from exit and went with Cole to Slate Real Estate. That's when you formed your duo here. Now, do you guys have plans of having greater agents? Or you guys just like working together and leaning on each other, or is there is a vision to have?
I think maybe in the future, we'll start to expand. But originally, we started the Pledger and Polanco team because we had been working together for so long. We had such a great system, and we kind of complement each other perfectly in our roles that we just kind of decided, like, hey, why don't we just continue doing this, but over here?
Yeah, the transition was seamless for us because we already knew our roles. Yordan works specifically with buyers. I work with sellers. And that in and of itself just allows us to perfect our craft in that. A lot of the trainings and a lot of the designations that I have are geared towards sellers and staging. And he, on the other hand, goes to more buyer accreditation. So
I think I read in there you are a certified stager.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Yeah.
And we'll tip on that here in a little bit. I guess from my side of the table, so to speak, looking at, okay, well, he's a buyer's agent. You like listings. Okay, well, there's agents out there that like that. What is it that makes your team, or what's the powers you both had coming together? Yeah, okay, you complement each other. You grew up under Cole, basically, all right? So you guys have a similar ideology from that standpoint. It's like working in the same company for a long period of time together from that standpoint. But what is, from an agent standpoint, as if you were talking to an agent out there who has thought about partnering up with somebody because, well, it's common to buy our listing, leaning on. What is the benefits of doing that? What did you guys see the benefits of doing that?
I mean, just, with Yordan specifically, we have the same values. We see things, big picture, we're definitely on the same page. We work tirelessly with our customers, and we have, very similar goals in terms of production and everything. But family is absolutely number one to us, and we're able to support each other through that. We both have little kids. So sometimes there's, emergency situations that come up and you have to deal with. We're really good with, just going on the fly and figuring it out if there's ever a situation like that. Really, he's my right hand, and he, if I'm not able to do something, I have full confidence in him that he's going to do it exactly how I would.
Confidence.
Yeah, even though, I work with buyers and she does sellers, we meet at least once a week. I mean, just to kind of go over everything.
All the pipelines.
And we each know every single transaction we have. All the details of it, whether it's buyer, seller. So in case I do have to jump in, or she, has to jump in on a console or something like that, she knows everything about it.
So because if you just had a friend in the brokerage and say, hey, I'm going out of town, will you cover my stuff? They don't necessarily know everything about everyone on your list, where you guys are meeting and talking about each other, maybe strategizing. Have you had the situation where, because I imagine that the dream is that someone calls you and say, hey, I'm thinking about listing my house. You go over and they're like, okay, hey, you got someone looking to buy, and then he's handling the buy side, right? Their new home that they're buying, you're handling the sell. I mean, does that happen? Those situations come up often? Yeah,
absolutely. Like Yordan said, we meet at least once a week. So I know the active buyers that he's working with. So when I go into a listing consultation and I'm looking at the specs, I'm walking through, looking at the finishes, a lot of times his specific customers will pop into my mind. And I immediately text him and say, hey, I've got a listing that fits so-and-so's needs. You definitely want to come preview it.
Or a lot of times I actually go to the listing consult as well, just in case I do have to jump in. And,
but you also have an eye on the house, right?
I have an eye on the house.
Yeah,
correct.
Eye on the house. That actually, I mean, that's common sense, and it's brilliant in the fact that you do lean down. So from a compensation side, because obviously he's the buyer, so someone's calling you to list their home. So, I mean, and you don't have to get into exact details. Are you sharing those things, or as a group? Because I don't know, maybe one month you have a bunch of people that are moving out of state, so they're not using Yordan to buy. You've got 5 listings, and he's only got 1 buyer side. I mean, how do you guys? Is that something to kind of educate an agent who may be looking at your situation? How does that work?
Consistently over the years, we are very even keeled. At the end of the year, when we recap month over month, those end numbers are really even keeled when it comes to buyer side and seller sides. So that being said, it's really easy for us specifically, to just call it even at the end of the day.
Right.
There are months that I have more closings, there are months that he does. But those overall numbers at the end of the year are very consistent for us.
Yeah, and other teams might, do it differently and have different splits, but at the end of the day, we feel, we're 100%, we're partners 100% of the time, so we do 50-50. I mean, and that kind of incentivizes to kind of help each other even more.
Yeah.
There seems to be, I can sense between the two of you, obviously just the way you're talking, I think you used, was it confidence? What was it? I think you used a word there. You're confident in him.
Yeah,
and obviously he's very
absolutely.
confident in you. And because you guys obviously are aligning together in your ideologies, your visions of what you're doing. And yeah, we have to have a life, and to have that, really that, I assume your husband calls him your work husband.
Yeah.
And to have that combination, someone's got your back. Hey, when you taking your vacations? Okay, I'll take mine here, and that sort of thing, and how important it is to go there. What are some, and this could be anywhere in your real estate career before you were a team, and it would be interesting if it was something as a team that you did this. But what are a mistake that you made that you would maybe tell a new agent or a fairly new agent, say, hey, I did that, don't do that? Mm-hmm. What are some things that you've done?
So, specifically with me being a listing specialist, when I was a new agent, it was really hard for me to, I could walk through a house and know exactly what they needed to do, but it took me a while to become confident in giving that advice to a seller who has lived in that home. They love that home.
Like
in
renovation?
terms of preparing
the home.
it for listing.
Mm-hmm.
So, it was a learning curve. Yeah, absolutely. But, now I'm completely confident in being able to strategize with sellers and helping them, realize that these are the things that you're going to have to get done before listing.
And confidence, because that's what it was confidence. Mm-hmm. You didn't have confidence to tell them what to do. I think we all deal with that in our lives in one way, shape, or form. What would be a way for that new agent to maybe shorten that confidence curve that you were a little slower with? What are some things that they could possibly do to understand, to get that confidence to do that?
So, I realized it didn't take me very long to realize if I didn't deal with it up front before we were prepping the listing, it was going to come back in the end anyways through, feedback and everything.
Home inspection.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So you're going to deal with it one way or another. It's better to just get it over with on the front end before the entire process starts.
So if you might be bringing a buyer to her listing, you've already scoped the listing out, like, hey, this needs to be fixed or whatever. I mean, knowing what because I'm sure she's already shared what she's already told the seller. I'm a big thing. I think everyone should be doing pre-listing inspections, personally.
Yeah.
I think they'll be making a comeback.
I agree,
yeah. Because it just gives someone an excuse. Because I think right now that people are making offers, are like, well, we got the inspection period. We'll go do an inspection. Even, I don't know, the lamp's broken. We'll just tell them we don't want to buy it because the lamp's broken. And technically they can do that. But at the pre-listing inspection, it just narrows that down a little bit. So Yordan, same question that what is a mistake, or maybe even something you should have done earlier in your career that you would share with a new agent that would, I guess, shorten their learning curve from your learning curve?
So I mean, similar to what Erika said, just having that confidence to educate your buyer or your seller on the process on the home. Sometimes you don't want to tell them what they don't want to hear. you know? But again, it always comes back, you know, they're going to find out eventually, you know,
Yeah.
if there's an issue with the home or anything like that.
Pay
So, yeah,
now or pay later.
Exactly.
Yeah, yeah. What and we're on that term of confidence, and just to reiterate, I think we were saying that because I have the three of the most common themes that and this is a 79th episode. Education. Is education, I mean, how important is for an agent ramping up, and even for you guys today as the market changes, to educate is a wide open word, but to stay informed.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Constantly be learning, constantly be going, like you said, go to the contract class, and learning those things will give you that much more confidence. I get a lot of confidence out of, I want to say confidence, energy, when I'm listening to a podcast or read a good book, and I hear something, an idea, or maybe something that just resonates with me, and it gives me just a boost. And then when I'm in front of somebody, or a lot of times I'll listen to another podcast coming in to work, especially preparing how our conversation may go, because they might tell me something on that podcast, and while we're having a great conversation, it's top of mind. It's there, and it adds my confidence in presenting the show. And I think getting in front of all your buyers and sellers there is a little bit of showpiece involved.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. You mentioned earlier surrounding yourself. You were you were showing up at different events and so forth. How important is it to interact with some of those, maybe whether it's a top broker, top producer, maybe even the trainer at NEFAR, because there's some really good ones around the state with Florida Realtors and so forth. How important, and what little edge is that giving your career, so to speak, what little boost?
I mean, it's everything. Surrounding yourself with the right people. That's kind of where I started with Exit. I started going to their events before I had my license. I would go to little mixtures and socials and things like that, and talking to the brokers, talking to the top agents there, and just getting little tidbits and tips of how to do things, and that's kind of what has guided me my whole career, just kind of going through those things and getting tips and just talking to the right people.
I had Sarah Rocco on a couple months ago, and she said when she first started, she went to an event. She was only 2 months into the business. She went to an event, put it all on a credit card, put herself out there. She, as a single mom, and she actually asked the speaker if she could get a minute with him. Well, that minute lasted in the whatever amount of time, and then they invited her to New York. Totally changed her career. How receptive are these top producers or speakers? These people, you went and here you're a new agent. You don't even have your license yet. You're interacting with them. How welcoming were they to just kind of tell you stuff?
I mean, fortunately for me, the people that I was meeting, at Exit, Sonny, Ray, Nancy, all those top people were extremely welcoming. I knew right off of the bat that this was the place I was going to go to. I didn't try to interview with anybody else. I knew those were my people that I was going to start with, and they were always available. So that's monumental there.
So stuff that they were telling you resonated with you,
Yes.
and in line of ideology that gave you the confidence, like, I'm going to the right place.
Exactly.
I'm going to be right.
100%.
Erica, what are some of the things that you in your career? How important is it for agents, whether they're in their first month or 11th year, to show up, interact, even with the other agents? Because as in any sales, and loan officers have it worse than anything. You guys are much better than we are from the standpoint of interacting with each other, collaborating with each other. Because obviously you do need the buyers and seller agents. You guys do have to actually put a deal together, right? And some are easier than others. But how important is it to go out and meet these other people in your industry, and not only just get to know them and put them in your dial, but actually listen to how they're doing business.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And that goes for, other top producing agents that I'm able to work with. I love, anytime I have a transaction with another top producing agent, it's so fun to see the way that they're doing the things, the same systems, what's different about it, what works for them. versus how we do it. Just always having an open, receptive mind in terms of what you can change, tweak to make it better. And then, outside of other top producing agents, always having those preferred partners that I know I can literally call at the drop of the dime, and they will, get that work order in for me immediately so that my seller can close on time or whatever it is that needs to happen. Just fostering those relationships are super important to Yordan and I.
How important has it been, pretty much since you guys became the Slate, went over to Slate Real Estate in the last year, that when you go and make an offer, especially on an existing home, new construction, there's it's just a builder on the other side, but an existing home, to actually have a relationship, or maybe that, obviously people form relationships through social media. We haven't talked anything about social media, but maybe you met them at a social, or met them there briefly, had said hi, you chit chatted for a little bit or whatever, but they've actually seen you, and now you're making an offer on a house they're listing. Right? How important is that person knows you,
Yeah.
or, even a little bit.
Especially in this past 2 years where you're getting, 20 offers on one home, you might be very close with another person, but then you just know, that listing agent or that buyer's agent, and you can go to your customer and say, hey, I trust this person, I've worked with them before, or have a relationship with this person, they're very trustworthy, professional, and that could, just give you the edge sometimes.
And if they say they're a good
Yeah.
buyer, they're a good buyer, we know the
absolutely.
transaction is going to go as smooth as it reasonably can.
Yeah.
The one word, we haven't talked about it, but I'm sure it's in your guys' games because you are successful. What is, again, going back, we're talking to, really any agent out there. Anyone that's looking obviously looks up to you guys and what you're doing. A common term that we've had is consistency. Erika, what would you say, and you may have changed this, what you did in 2014 and what you're doing now, obviously working with Yordan, it may have done. What are you doing now, or have maybe something you've always done, Nicole maybe brought to your attention, that you do consistently that you could say is like a foundation of your business?
In terms of lead gen and everything, it's definitely those phone calls, actually picking up the phone and having that conversation. I feel like a lot of times, it's easy to get on autopilot, where everything is text, email, but
Agree.
it's different when you get on the phone and you're on the other end talking to the customer, hearing their tone of voice, picking up something that you absolutely wouldn't be able to pick up via text or email. Something that you need to focus on is going to come through. So definitely picking up the phone, making that call.
Busting through that fear of the phone, and understanding that you've done a bunch of transactions, so a lot of times we're like, we just think that they've done this, whatever amount of times that we've done it, and it's nowhere near. They're doing that. You have to treat every customer uniquely and bust through the attractiveness to autopilot, put on text, email,
Absolutely.
and then go walk and go do something else. All right, so consistency, phone.
I think being consistent too, going back to that community involvement, being consistent in our, appreciation parties, and we do, first responder breakfasts. We make sure we do that, every single year. Teacher appreciations, being consistent there.
You're not just a one-time wonder.
Not a one-time wonder. People look forward to that.
Right. Right.
I just had somebody contact me this morning. So me and Erika started doing our version of teacher appreciation is we go to their wish list on Amazon and we help them with their school supplies. So I had somebody reach out to me. It's like, hey, are you guys doing this again this year? We really love some help. So people look forward to those things. So you got to be consistent in your community as well.
So give us a little bit of detail. So you reach out to a teacher, was it maybe your kid's teacher, or just a random? How do you?
So I farm my community and Erika does hers. So we kind of put it in our Facebook group, like, hey, any teachers in the community, we'd love to help.
Okay, so maybe a past client is a teacher.
Past clients.
Yeah,
we have
absolutely.
tons of teachers as past clients. So we try to help as much as we can there.
So you contact them, they're giving you, this is our needs list, and then you're putting out there to promote, to try to raise funds for that?
So we just buy their school
You
supplies.
buy
that
their
they need.
school supplies for them?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, because the one thing I can't stand is that list I get at the beginning of the year, and you got to run to the
Oh,
store.
yeah.
I
and-
know.
my
You know, but they
God.
need so much more than that. Things
Yeah,
that
they
are,
do.
you know, they're coming out of pocket for. So anytime we can help a teacher
And a
with
lot of that
stuff
stuff
like that.
is I mean, it's not expensive stuff. I mean, I'm sure the teacher, I mean, they tell you, hey, yeah, the first, between here and Christmas, this is my plan, and this is what I need. I need these art materials or whatever it is, pencils, whatever. And I mean, my goodness gracious, I know plenty of lenders that have boxes of pens. We can order pencils too.
Yeah.
I mean, I often tell the loan officers, hey, take a handful of pens when you go out to lunch and just leave it with the waitress,
Oh,
okay? Because otherwise they're sitting there in their closet and no one's really, really using them. But that is, the consistency though, I think goes back to that. You can do, you know what, I'll think of the teachers this year, but when you don't do it next year, I think when you start doing, hey, this, that teacher you're calling every year, you're continuing the term you use, relationship.
Yes.
Relationship. Actually, I want to finish with that the formal questions anyway. How important is it? You guys have been doing this now, 4 years going on 5, right? And what, 8 years?
8 years.
So how important is it? Not only are you, daily or weekly that you're trying to obviously introduce yourselves to new people, new prospecting, new leads, but continuing to nurture the old ones that you did that great job like Cole did with you guys, and that you continue to reach out and touch them. What are some things that you guys do for your past clients / circles of influence?
So I think, first, obviously, we're in the real estate business. We help people buy homes. But most importantly, we're in the relationship business. Keeping those relationships and building those is everything. No matter where the market goes, those relationships,
Yeah.
are going to stay. So I think, some of the things we do, I think was your question.
Yeah, what are some of the things you guys do to reach out to the past or touch the past clients, keep yourselves top of mind?
So monthly, on their home anniversaries, we give them swag bags, till this day, even if they closed 5 years ago. We'll
Right.
send them like a bag full of our goodies and things like that.
Right.
And then obviously we have the big appreciation party once a year and things like that.
Yeah.
How do you drive, because the appreciation events, in this case, how do you try, I mean, obviously I would assume the goal is, yeah, you could put out there that you're having it, but you really want people at least to stop by. What are you guys doing to kind of really incentivize some of those past, clients to just at least show up?
It's
for a few
definitely
months?
grown over the years, but just making it a really fun, family-focused event where
Which I know
really-
Cole likes to do.
Yeah,
He likes
yeah,
the events.
anyone can come out. There's something for everyone. Food, music always works. So just try to have a good time.
Well, I guess what I'm leading to help maybe a listener who might be, or an agent who might be looking to do this, or maybe there's a broker listening. Yeah, I like it, but I'm not having success with the show. Because I find being kind of the event coordinator for my alumni group as a president, I mean, sometimes, or even organizing an event for the real estate agents, you have to pound them right up to the day, like, hey, the event.
Again, going back to the consistency, right?
Yeah. Exactly. Going back to consistency, do you guys, you plan it out, or you like to do it like 2 months in advance, and then consistently, weekly, you're sending them an email or Facebook?
Some events we'll put out almost a year in advance, and then just keep sending reminders
Yeah.
of that event. And again, I mean, after a few years, it might not be as big the first couple of years, but after, the consistency, people kind of
It grows,
expect it,
and
right? So they
everyone
kind of
looks
look forward to it.
Yeah.
Do you guys do it as Slate Real Estate, or you're just doing it as just your guys' customers?
we have one big, obviously we've, been at our own team since 2020. Slate Real Estate has their own big party, but we're starting to incorporate kind of our own smaller, appreciation events and events.
So you make sure you can, again, touch those past clients.
Yeah, absolutely.
Building those relationships. So you're reaching out on anniversaries, you're having the events, anything else that we're...
Yeah, I
how
mean,
about your circles of influence? What do you guys do there?
Any big life event for any of our past customers, obviously, we do personal touches anytime they refer us business, but anytime someone has a baby or gets married.
You stalk them on Facebook?
Yeah, a lot of times. We love seeing those happy announcements, so, you know, it's really important.
So, to kind of sum it up, I mean, you know, showing up at events, meeting top people, keeping yourself educated, top of mind, spend a lot of time on education. You'll start to thin it out, and hopefully it tips where you're doing more lead generation, and because you're always doing lead generation in there, but to gain the confidence that you talked about comes from the education, and then the consistency in the things that you do, and some people may think those things are silly, but the reality is, just like social media, the consistency of you doing whatever it is, you're staying top of mind.
Yeah.
You're putting that event out months in advance. So there's, you know, whether it's 2 months or 12 months, you're touching them and reminding them, and they're going to be, they think of a real estate agent, like, oh yeah, they're having that event. I got to call you.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Exactly. All right. I'm going to wrap it up. 2-minute warning questions. They're right here in an hour. Erika, is it more important who you know or what you know?
Oh, that's a good one. I mean, I would probably say who you know, I guess. You know, I mean, influence is everything. Like you said, sphere is everything. You know.
Would you say, you know, you're at Best Buddies, you weren't really thinking of real estate,
Yeah,
but you
not
meet
at all.
Cole. And by knowing him, that was the who you know
Yeah.
that made you feel confident. I can follow this guy, right? All right.
Absolutely.
Who you know or what you know?
It's definitely who you know.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you know, fortunately for me, my whole career, it's kind of been who you know, going to those events with Exit, meeting the right people, you know, Cole being my agent and kind of falling into that, not really knowing. It kind of just all falls into place, and you never know what opportunity you're going to get.
You know, maybe you made me think of it, and so what is the community thing that you do? Because I know that's part of Cole's plan. Erika, what are you on a board or anything? What are you
Yeah,
doing?
I'm still involved with Best Buddies.
Okay.
You know, always donating. You know, they have a lot of online fundraisers that they do throughout the year. Friendship Walk is one of their big public events that they do at the beach every year. So just staying involved with that's really close to my heart.
And then for me, you know, no specific boards, but me being prior military, you know, helping out all the military, USO, things like that. My wife was a teacher. Now she stays home with our son, but, you know, helping them out, I kind of saw what she went through and all the things that the teachers needs. So just trying to help.
And I did not know that part, but I mean, because of your real estate success, she's been able to stay home. Is that?
Yeah, so,
I mean-
you know, again, our son was born in May of 2020, kind of right in the middle of COVID.
Okay.
So we're kind of, again, back against the wall, like, does she go back to work? You know, is it more of a hassle than it's worth? We didn't really know where the market was going to go at the time.
Sure.
So we kind of took that risk of saying, okay, well, you know, it's more important our son's health and you staying home with him. So we'll kind of see.
Especially the infant years. You know,
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
So we'll kind of see how, you know, this first year goes. But then fortunately, you know, the market's been pretty good and she's been able to stay with him.
All right, so I was having breakfast with Cole a couple weeks ago, and he actually said this phrase. I already had this question I was already using this question, but it brings up, we have a little gem here in Northeast Florida. We have a unique, you know, as Key Largo does, or, you know, but people are starting to figure out, you know, we're kind of the last thing as South Florida is kind of like getting, you know, a little crazy. Northeast Florida, we got a nice big river. We got the river, we got the intercoastal, we can go offshore. You know, if you're a boater, and, you know, obviously it's plenty of beach, parks, and, you know, we're not too far from just a lot of different things. What is your favorite thing to do in Northeast Florida?
Definitely the beach. We love the beach, yeah.
Is there a favorite beach you like to go to?
We usually like to go a little further south where it's not as crowded. You know.
You like go down to St. Augustine
Yeah,
Beach, something?
yeah,
Okay.
definitely. But we love the water.
Jordan?
Oh, my son loves the beach.
Yeah.
anything with water, you know, he's in. You know, boat, jet skis, you know, just being on the water, being in the sand, spent, you know, family time.
All right. Now, I told you guys before the show, is there anything, because I've kind of gone through, we were at an hour now, is there anything that you guys want to share with anyone who, you know, listening, whether it's your family and friends or you know, a prospective agent out there, maybe in future years? Would you guys be welcome if someone heard the show and wanted to call you and just ask questions about how your team, the dynamics, the deeper dynamics of your team?
Yeah.
Yeah, we're always, you know, willing to talk and kind of, you know, teach people our strategies and just, you know, any questions they have about the market. It's forever changing, especially now.
Yeah.
So we're always, you know, welcome to talk about that. And
Do we have a funny story about each other you guys want to tell?
Oh gosh,
man.
too many. Way
we'll
too
keep
many.
that after the podcast.
I can't get that
That'll
after the
have to be a
podcast.
second episode.
Well, I appreciate you guys coming on.
Thank you for having us.
I hope our audience got to know a little bit about the Pledger Polanco team here, and whether you're a buyer, seller, or, like I said, an agent who, like you said, you may be in the future, you may start to, you know, bring in some new agents or semi-experienced agents and put them under your tutelage and as part of the Slate Real Estate team. But I appreciate you guys coming on today.
Thank
for having
you.
us.
Thank you.